Let's be clear from the start. This is not a fairy tale. This is a war story. Imagine France in the early 15th century. The country is on its knees, collapsing under the weight of a seemingly endless war with England. English forces control vast territories, and the French nobles are more interested in fighting each other than the common enemy. The French army is a shadow of its former self, exhausted, demoralized, and on a losing streak that seems to have no end. The future looks bleak. And then a girl appears. She is 17 years old. She has no noble blood, no military training, and zero political power. Her name is Joan. At this point, France doesn't need another general with another complicated strategy. It needs something far more fundamental. It needs belief. And somehow this teenage girl from a small village brings it. She doesn't arrive promising miracles or divine intervention. Instead, she arrives demanding action. She insists the war can be won, but only if they cast aside their fear and fight. People start to follow her, not because they are convinced by her visions, but because she is willing to stand where no one else will, on the front line. She leads from the very front, sharing the same risks as the lowest-ranking soldier. This is a kind of leadership they haven't seen in a very long time. The turning point comes at the city of Orléans. The city is under siege, a critical strategic point. If Orléans falls, France is finished. The English forces are everything the French are not: experienced, disciplined, and confident. They control the terrain, the pace of the war, and the psychological advantage. In contrast, the French troops are defensive, cautious, and practically defeated before the battle even begins. Then Joan enters the city. She doesn't command like a seasoned strategist, poring over maps in a tent. She doesn't hide behind formations or send others to do the fighting. She simply walks forward, a banner in her hand, her presence a direct challenge to the despair that has taken hold. When the attack begins, it's absolute chaos. A storm of arrow fire, thick smoke, the constant shouting of men, and the ground shaking from artillery impacts. The French, inspired by Joan, launch a direct assault on the heavily fortified English positions. The resistance is brutal. They are repelled again and again, with heavy casualties. At one critical moment, Joan herself is struck by an arrow and falls. She's pulled back from the fighting, and for a moment it looks like the old pattern of defeat will repeat itself. But then, something happens. Joan returns. Not later, not the next day. She gets back on her feet and returns to the front line while the battle is still raging. That single act changes everything. Soldiers who were about to retreat turn back around. Units that were faltering push forward with renewed determination. The attack intensifies, a wave of French courage crashing against the English defences. The English lines, so solid just moments before, begin to crack. Their outer defences fall, one by one. By the end of the fighting, the siege is broken. Orléans is saved. And for the first time in a generation, France believes it can win. But this incredible victory creates a new, unexpected problem. Joan becomes dangerous, not to the enemy, but to her own side. Her success proves that raw courage and genuine leadership matter more than political maneuvering and noble birthright. It proves that leadership doesn't need permission from the established order. Following the victory at Orléans, the path is cleared for the French Dauphin to be crowned king at Reims, a hugely symbolic act that reaffirms French sovereignty. Joan is at his side, the architect of this incredible reversal of fortune. But for her, this is just the beginning. She wants to finish the war, to drive the English out of France for good. This is where the nobles and the newly crowned king hesitate. They prefer to negotiate, to calculate, to play the political game. They see Joan's relentless drive as a threat to their own power and influence. So they delay, they obstruct, and eventually, they abandon her. She is captured. Not in a great, heroic last stand. She is ambushed during a minor skirmish left behind by the very people she fought to empower. Her enemies understand something crucial. They know they can't defeat her on the battlefield. Her spirit is too strong, so they decide to destroy her in a different way. They don't put her on trial as a soldier, a prisoner of war. They put her on trial as a symbol. The trial is a sham, a political masterstroke designed to crush what she represents. It's not about justice. It's about control, They question her authority, her faith, even the way she dresses. They attack her for wearing men's clothing and for claiming to hear divine voices. But what they are really asking is one simple, brutal question. Who gave you the right? Who gave a peasant girl the right to lead armies, to advise a king, to change the course of history? Through it all, she does not break. She does not apologize for who she is or what she has done. At just 19 years old, she is condemned and executed. The system that she saved, the system that was too afraid of her power, allows her to be burned at the stake. But the story doesn't end there. Her execution was meant to extinguish her influence, but it had the opposite effect. The war continues, but now, the French fight with a new sense of purpose, a new national identity forged in the fire of her sacrifice. Slowly but surely, the tide turns for good. The English are pushed back, inch by inch, until they are finally driven from French soil. The course of history was irrevocably changed. Years later, the same church and state that condemned her revisited her case. They conducted a new trial and declared her innocent, eventually elevating her to sainthood. It was a formal acknowledgement of the truth, but it came far too late for the girl herself. Joan of Arc did not win the war alone. That's not the point. But she did something more powerful than any single victory. She restored belief to a nation that had lost it. She proved that history doesn't just happen, it is made. And sometimes it turns on the courage of a single person, who, when faced with overwhelming odds, simply refuses to step back. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as powerful as we do, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into history. See you next time.